breaking news we've learned from the Israelis, from the officials, the defense minister of Israel, that they have assassinated the head of National Security Council of Iran, Ali Larijani. And recently, there are a lot of rumors about what is happening with Benjamin Netanyahu, some sort of fake AI and these sort of. But when it comes to the assassination of people like Ali Larijani, which I would consider him as not a radical, he's a somehow reformist type of, person. He's not that much to the right, is in the center somehow. And with what's going on in Israel as well, in the Israeli media, what is your understanding of this psychological somehow war between the two, Israel and Iran?
Well, you're right to point out. I mean, I've seen the claims that he has been assassinated. I don't know if they're true. They haven't been, as far as I know, yet been confirmed in Iran, but possibly it is true. I mean, that's the vibe that I get, that we ought to be expecting that is to be the case. And, this is a track that Israel has been down for a long, long time. You remember, I mean, this is assassinations and killings and decapitations have been their basic modus operandi. And often it ends up, worse. I remember, well, I don't remember the exact times, but you will recall that the previous head of Hezbollah was Musawi, and that the Israelis were determined to kill him and to kill others of the leadership in what they saw as the clerical leaders in Hezbollah. And what did they end up with? They ended up with Nasrallah, a harder line person. And I think what you say about Ali Larijani is quite true. Larijani is very much a very intelligent, intellectual, thoughtful person. He's not by any means an extremist, if you like, shall I say, on the more militant wing, the more determined. He's actually much more centrist, shall we say. And so we don't know who will replace him. There's talk that it might be Kalibaf. I don't know if it will be Kalibaf because there was a difference between these two appointments. Larijani was head of the whole Supreme National Security Council. So he was dealing not only with, I mean, there was the military aspect of it, which has now been, if you like, taken out of the main Security Council function and has been left with military experts under the command of Kalibaf. And Kalibaf has been managing the military side of it, the operational side of the war, my understanding, whereas Larijani has to deal, with the diplomatic side, with relations with India, with, all of these other aspects of it. So will they want to take Kalibaf out of his role, which he's played, by all accounts, has been very effective in it for that? Well, maybe. I mean, we can't say. But as I say, there are always unexpected consequences of these things. Israel always assumes, that killing people who they think are not in pro-Israeli is a sort of a necessary function. But it often, if you like, is counterproductive even for their interest, let alone the interests of many others. But I just have to say, this whole thing of just killing and killing, all are deemed, that anyone who's deemed to be not pro-Israeli should be killed. Is terrible. I mean, and Trump has been starting to say these sort of things too. I mean, I find it very, I mean, it's really quite disgusting. And he said people who don't, journalists who don't support Israel, they should be prosecuted as treason under the Treason Act. Treason Act has a death penalty. I mean, are they really going to say that they're going to kill people in America that don't support Israel or completely in this war? Because there's a lot of Americans who don't support Israel fully in this war, besides some journalists. But we've got, this has been, the exterminate or be exterminated thinking that comes from out of Israel. You have to exterminate so that you don't get exterminated. And of course, that's never been the calculus, either for Iran or Hezbollah too, although Trump claims that, Hezbollah and others have said that, that their aim is to destroy the Hebraic element of the land there. It's never been that. It has been to try and force them to give up the idea of special rights for one population group over other population groups with whom they share the same territory. That's quite a different prospect. And that is what Hassan Nasrallah said at the time. It was about exhausting and pushing Israel to a desperation where they would re-examine Zionism and find that it was a wrong path to try and establish special rights, administrative security, financial rights for one population group in territory occupied by other peoples.
Yeah. How do you see the situation around Netanyahu? What is your understanding of the current situation? The way that we haven't seen Netanyahu in the last 2 security briefings in Israel. How can we understand that?
Well, we can't. I mean, we just don't know. I mean, there's been a sort of a tsunami of obviously AI videos being put out. But are they deliberately putting out AI videos to confuse the situation? Or are they AI videos that are put out to cover up a reality that they don't want to share with the world? We don't know that. And it's not much point in trying to second guess it. We'll know in due course. But for now, you can look through those videos and you can come to some sort of conclusion, but it may be wrong. But the other thing that is the case is we've noticed in psychological terms a huge shift taking place just recently in the last few days in Israel. A big shift that is prevalent, particularly in the Hebrew press, where serious figures are saying, it's time for Trump to call time out and get out of this war. It's over. It's not leading to a success. I mean, many people, serious military figures or political figures writing in the Hebrew press there is a complete change in tone that has taken place. And if you look at in the last few days at the Hebrew press, what is quite striking is the sort of sense that, everyone is just writing about banalities, about some arcane part of the conflict that's going on between the various parties, about the upcoming elections in Israel or something, who's saying this or who's that. I mean, and not the war, and not saying anything about Iran. So why is that? I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but it looks as if something quite important has struck Israel, because it's everywhere across the Hebrew press, a sort of sense that something has turned. I can't say how it's turned or what, but I think it's important. And we'll probably have to wait to find out what that is. But we've also even seen some signs of, anxiety and crisis in Washington, of people saying the security briefing was awful. I mean, coming out of, the classified security briefings in Washington and saying, "Whoa, this was, terrible." They don't say what was terrible, but there is a change in psychology, and I think it's important, really, also to say, and I'm saying it to you who know it. So I mean, it's really for the audience, is that there's a change in psychology, I believe, in Iran too, that people have come together. I mean, in a way that hasn't existed since the revolution. I mean, as a people have come together. I mean, they are absolutely solid and forthright, going onto the street. People who might have been in the opposition camp have now switched completely. I mean, there's no opposition of the sort that Trump conjures up and thinks that is going to sort of somehow take control of the country. There is a sort of resilience and a sort of steadfastness in people. You see it, something happens, an explosion goes off when there are crowds on the street, and people don't move. They just stay there. And even if, someone in the crowd is killed, people just stay. Ramadan, after iftar, after the feast, they're out on the streets. So I think there is that actually the bombing and the loss of life, civilian life, has actually stiffened the opposition to the United States and Israel in Iran, and has created a sort of a spirit of resistance, a spirit, I mean, which is also, something to do with, the whole sort of essence of what it is to be Iranian and what it is to be part of this experiment. And so I think that's another important element. And I think psychology is also changing in the United States in quite a profound way too. We have to sort of try and look what it is. It's not entirely clear, but in some quarters, I mean, there's a touch of panic in the air. I mean, panic not just about the war, but about the economy and about midterm elections. And there's also, an issue which is coming to the fore of why are we in this war? It's not just about, can I have a pretext? What's your pretext for having launched the war? Whether it was the nuclear program or whether it was some other aspect that, Iran threatened Israel, which it didn't. Iran threatened America, which it didn't. But there is something, because you keep getting the feeling that, why did Trump go into something so patently wrong? I mean, so patently stupid to get into this war when, normally he has quite good political instincts. And, it's leaving many Americans, I believe, and you can hear them saying this, with a sense that there's something unseen in this equation, a power structure, something that is able to enforce and entrap people into behavior that they might not otherwise be taking. And so that sort of sense that Americans have got now to look at themselves and say, what exactly is the structure? What does it amount to? And who's controlling it? Because, it's invisible for Americans to be able to see it's obvious that it's there, and obvious that it has a huge power behind it. But the question of who is actually controlling the American destiny is now becoming an issue, something important in America. And so this is something. So, and then we have, of course, the midterms, and the midterms are causing a real panic in the Republican Party. I mean, they've been having a meeting at the Doral Club, where a golf club owned by Trump in Florida, looking at it. And, you know, I heard a Republican say, listen, most of the people at this meeting knew that as things stand, they're not going to make it. I mean, the majority are not going to get through this midterms. They're going to drown, or if they can just sort of stay afloat long enough till 28 elections, they hope that they might be up there. But there's real sense of anxiety, you know, and they feel they've completely lost their MAGA base. So this is another element of the war, apart from the one about the economic situation. Because, I mean, part of this asymmetrical war that Iran is deploying, asymmetrical in, you know, I'm talking here about on the military front, has always been an asymmetrical war, but it's also a war on logistics, and it's a war on the economic situation. And it seems to me that is really spooking people, that they cannot, that effectively Iran is controlling passage through Hormuz. For now, it is allowing certain ships through. The Chinese ships are passing through. Indian, and I believe a Pakistani ship also has passed through. But others, the vast majority, are not able to pass through. And that is creating a great deal of concern about inflation in the West and economic slowdown, perhaps even recession or worse. And that is, I mean, going to play out in a big way. This is going to play out in a big way in the midterm elections. And, you know, people are talking about gasoline prices, gas prices, as they call it, in California at $8 a gallon. And that's, you know, they consider that outrageous. Americans are very affected, more affected than anyone else, I think, about the price of whatever you want to call it, petrol, gasoline. This really does affect politics, not just people's pockets, but it is a sort of litmus for politics. High gasoline prices is a vote against the incumbent government. I mean, it's this sort of mechanical. Is that, I think, in a certain way. These are some of the elements, and they hope that, you know, China would switch, that China would, because of the closure of Hormuz, China would join in a process to open it. But China, I think they've miscalculated on China's situation. 40% of the oil that goes through Hormuz has been to China. Yet, the reality is, because China is such a big consumer of energy, that's only less than 5% of its total. In other words, it's not, you know, existential for China. And in any case, it filled its strategic reserve before the war. It actually, unlike America, you know, made some strategic precautions. It filled its reserves, and it's tankers are passing through the Hormuz. And so, and for China, I mean, so this is not, such a problem. Of course, they depend on this Iranian oil, but it's flowing, and it'll probably continue to flow during this period. And at the same time, they are just exporting, to Europe, to Asia. Their exports are soaring, and they are becoming less and less dependent on the American market. Their exports, I think, in the last quarter went up something like nearly 20%, and their exports to America have been declining because China is reorientating, and this has huge consequences because the whole economy is now, if you like, pivoting to China because of its exports and because of its competitiveness. It's competitive as in a way that neither anyone in the West, either Europe or America, can compete with it. It's got price deflation in manufactured goods, and we have price inflation. So China is not a threat from what's happening in Hormuz, as it seems, Besant and Trump seem to believe it is at risk. On the contrary, it's doing very well out of this period, and it is not likely to sort of feel any need to change the situation on the ground, because, and that's perhaps something we back to later, because this is a big geopolitical shift, geostrategic shift that is taking place. I just mentioned China, of course, Russia, and what Iran is doing by taking control of these choke points and the seaways of the Persian Gulf, through which most of the energy travels. Some 40% total energy, I think, travels through these on these lanes. They are actually changing the geopolitical situation of Gulf states, but also other states, whether it is Japan, whether it is Taiwan, whether it is South Korea, all of whom are much, much more dependent on oil, and India and Pakistan. Now, Iran, for now, has been allowing Indian to run its tankers, even though, Modi went and sort of gave his blessings to Israel in an extraordinary show of subordination to Israel just before the war began. However, Iran is still allowing India. I think it's a political decision to try and, not to capitalize on India's bad judgment, but to try and bring it back into the BRICS fold, from which it was quite evidently, seemed to be moving in the other direction, not formally, but in the same sort of political.